The trade involving Nikola Vucevic ultimately did absolutely nothing to help the Boston Celtics achieve their ultimate goal. When the front office made the bold decision to acquire the veteran center, they had a very specific vision in mind. They wanted to secure reliable frontcourt depth to survive a grueling postseason run. Those high hopes eroded incredibly fast as the team collapsed in the first round. On the completely opposite side of this transaction, the Chicago Bulls caught a massive break. The Bulls used this exact trade to finally kickstart a long-overdue roster rebuild. Calculated decision to tear things down has now rewarded them with the 4th overall pick in the upcoming draft. To truly understand how this trade shifted the balance of power, we need to look deeply at the motivations of both franchises. Boston did not make this move solely to add another big man to their rotation. The front office was heavily focused on the complex salary cap rules. They needed to get under the luxury tax apron to unlock more financial options for the upcoming summer. The goal was to have their cake and eat it too. Wanted to shed salary, while also bringing in a veteran who could contribute immediately. This plan seemed especially smart because Jason Tatum was well on his way to returning from his injury. The Celtics needed someone to hold down the paint and grab rebounds while the superstar forward worked his way back onto the floor. The reality of the situation turned out to be far more complicated than the spreadsheet projections. The Chicago Bulls had been stuck in basketball purgatory for several years. They were never quite good enough to contend for a title, and never quite bad enough to draft a franchise-altering superstar. Around the middle of the conference standings with a flawed roster, fans begged the front office to pick a clear direction for years. It took them what felt like an eternity to finally realize that going young was their only viable option. They finally committed to the strategy and executed it flawlessly. Trading away Vucevic was their way of throwing away the rest of the current season. They embraced the tanking process to secure a high draft pick. Their future is finally trending upward after years of total frustration. The Vucevic trade was just one part of their massive roster overhaul. The Bulls also traded away key contributors like Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu. They shipped out their established talent to accumulate draft capital and open up playing time for younger prospects. Another huge factor was their decision to bench Anfernee Simons for the rest of the year. Simons was the main piece they received from Boston in the trade. It was later revealed that Simons had been playing through a painful injury during his time in Boston. Sitting him down ensured the Bulls would lose more games and improve their lottery odds. It was a perfectly executed strategy by the Chicago front office. For Boston fans, this entire situation is a bitter pill to swallow. They completely understood the financial reasoning behind the trade at the deadline. The new collective bargaining agreement is incredibly punishing for teams that spend too much money. Shedding the salary of Simons was a necessary evil to keep the team flexible. On top of the financial concerns, there was absolutely no guarantee that Simons would return to Boston in the summer. Losing him for nothing in free agency would have been a disaster. However, knowing all of this does not make the reality any less painful. The pain stems from the fact that Simons had actually figured out his role under head coach Joe Mazzulla, who was thriving in the Boston offensive system before he was shipped away. Mazzulla had unlocked his scoring potential and integrated him perfectly into the rotation. Seeing him leave was tough, but seeing Vucevic fail to replace his impact was devastating. Vucevic arrived in Boston with a solid reputation as a skilled offensive big man. He showed a few brief flashes of his talent, but he never truly figured out how to fit into the system. The speed and intensity of the Boston defensive scheme seemed to overwhelm him at times. The struggles culminated in a disastrous playoff series against the Philadelphia 76ers. The matchup was a tactical nightmare for the aging center. Opposing guards targeted him relentlessly in the pick and roll. By the time Game 7 arrived, Mazzulla had completely lost faith in his veteran addition. Vucevic was benched in the most important game of the entire season. To be fair to the player, the entire Boston frontcourt rotation failed to deliver in the playoffs. None of the big men did the team any favors when the pressure reached its peak. But Vucevic was supposed to be the missing piece, and he provided essentially nothing. He does have one reasonable defense for his poor performance. He suffered a frustrating finger injury late in the regular season. This injury severely limited his practice time and his ability to develop chemistry with his new teammates. Continuity is incredibly important for a big man who needs to understand the passing angles and defensive rotations of a new system. The injury derailed that critical development process completely. If you want to see how the front office fixes this mess, please take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more updates. Looking toward the future, we have to ask if Vucevic will ever wear a Boston uniform again. If he is willing to accept a massive discount to return as a backup, there are certainly worse ideas out there. He still possesses a high basketball intelligence and a soft shooting touch around the basket. But the front office must be incredibly careful about allocating their limited roster spots. They need athletic defenders who can switch on the perimeter and protect the rim. The Chicago Bulls got exactly what they wanted out of this entire transaction. They cleared their books and secured a premium draft pick to build around. This situation should serve as a harsh reminder for the Boston front office. They traded away a productive young guard and got next to nothing in return from an asset perspective. The salary cap relief is valuable, but it does not score points or grab rebounds in an elimination match. The decisions made this upcoming summer will dictate the future of the entire franchise. The front office has a mountain of pressure on their shoulders to build a true championship contender around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They must find creative ways to add talent without breaking the bank. They cannot afford to make another trade deadline mistake like this one. Every single move must be calculated with extreme precision. The Eastern Conference is filled with young, hungry teams that are constantly improving. The margin for error is essentially zero right now. The coaching staff will spend the entire summer reviewing the film to find tactical improvements. They need to figure out why the offense stalled and why the defense broke down at the worst possible moments. Players will spend hours in the gym refining their skills and building their physical endurance. But the most important work will happen in the front office meeting rooms. The executives must identify undervalued free agents and explore every possible trade scenario. They need to find hidden gems who fit the culture and the system perfectly. The Chicago Bulls are sitting pretty with their 4th overall pick. They have the opportunity to draft a franchise-changing talent. They could select a dynamic point guard to run the offense or a dominant big man to anchor the defense. The building process requires immense patience, but the foundation is finally being poured in Chicago. The contrast between the two franchises is stark and fascinating. One team is desperately trying to win a championship right now, while the other is patiently building for the future. The Vucevic trade perfectly illustrates the different timelines and priorities of these two organizations. In the complex world of professional basketball, every trade has a winner and a loser. It is abundantly clear that Chicago won this deal by a wide margin. Boston must learn from this misstep and adjust their strategy accordingly. The pursuit of greatness is a never-ending journey, filled with difficult choices and harsh lessons. Failure of this specific trade is just one chapter in a much larger story. The Celtics still possess an incredibly talented core and a brilliant head coach. The window for a championship is still wide open if they make the right moves moving forward. The fans expect excellence and the organization demands nothing less. The focus now shifts entirely to the draft and the opening of free agency. The rumors will swirl and the speculation will reach a fever pitch, but the goal remains exactly the same. Build a team capable of surviving the playoff crucible and hanging another banner in the rafters. The sting of the recent collapse will fuel their motivation all summer long. The forgotten guard Anfernee Simons might end up having a massive career in Chicago or elsewhere. Nikola Vucevic might find a new home where his specific skills are properly utilized. But the Boston Celtics must solely focus on their own internal improvement. They need to trust their scouting department and their development coaches. They need to establish a gritty identity that shines brightest under pressure. The path ahead is difficult, but the reward is eternal glory. The executives know they cannot take any shortcuts on this journey. The financial rules dictate every decision they make. Navigating the salary cap requires a degree in mathematics and a crystal ball. You have to predict how players will age and how injuries will impact their value. The Vucevic gamble simply did not pay off this time. But the front office cannot be afraid to take calculated risks in the future. Fortune favors the bold in this league. Safe moves rarely lead to championship parades. They just need to ensure the next risk they take is backed by solid reasoning and perfect timing. The dynamic between Tatum and Brown requires a very specific type of supporting cast. They need shooters to space the floor and defenders to do the dirty work. Finding those specific role players is the hardest job in sports, but it is the only way to climb the mountain. The story of this trade will be told for years as a cautionary tale. It shows how a team can prioritize finances over fit and pay the ultimate price on the court. But it also shows how a team can successfully pivot toward a rebuild and secure a brighter future. The duality of the transaction is what makes the business of basketball so incredibly compelling. Every single decision has a massive ripple effect across the entire league. The Bulls are rising and the Celtics are regrouping. The next chapter of this rivalry is waiting to be written. The stakes have never been higher, and the entire basketball world is watching closely. The offseason is here and the real games have just begun behind closed doors.